Welcome, Michael. Good to have you here. For those of you who don't know, Michael is a friend of mine. He's in London, right? Isn't that where
I'm
you're at?
currently in London, yeah.
And Michael is my go-to guy when it comes to everything AI technical. So we've been working on some fun projects, and we're still working on. I shoot him every once in a while something there, so he can give me his take. And today we want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's been happening around AI in software development. Particularly, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was last week where OpenAI announced that they have this contextual ability of ChatGPT. I think it's the desktop app that can now integrate into development environments. And then before that, there was Cursor AI, which I think mainly runs on Anthropic's AI, right?
It can run Anthropic's AI, API,
Oh,
and
okay.
GPTs.
Got it. So you
It
have the
uses their
flexibility
APIs.
there too. So for non-technical people like me, like people with like a dangerous half knowledge, as people say in Germany, can you explain a little bit briefly, like what this whole evolution of natural language and programming has meant for you on the technical end? And then maybe we can go a little bit into those two solutions I just mentioned and the differences there. What do you think?
Cool. So the advent of Cursor really has improved my day-to-day workflows. I no longer have to do menial tasks such as creating tests or even editing singular lines. I can literally just code base it and ask, what is the error in this file? And it will tell me. And for someone who's new to programming or coding, they might have to debug that themselves and look for the answer on the internet, like Stack Overflow, for example. That is no longer a necessity because everything's within Cursor with the use of their APIs. Whether that's Anthropic's API or GPT's API, you can use that to really create a nice code base and pretty much anything that you can.
That's good for probably people with some background knowledge in development, right? Because oftentimes we see those clips online like, "Oh, I just created an app or a game in like 30 minutes or 60 minutes." But how much of that is that actually true when it comes to really creating a software that can be deployed and run? How much of that is tinkering? How much of that is just zero shot type of I'm giving you a prompt and you come up with the finished product? Or what is the reality of these environments right now?
Sure. So to get to deployment, there's a lot more steps involved than the average person would think. It's not difficult, but most of the time, people what they're doing with GPT coding and cursor coding is predominantly tinkering. But if you know what you're doing and you know how to deploy a program and know how to get from nothing in the files to a deployed product ready to go, you can use Cursor to your advantage and GPT to your advantage. You just need to know the knowledge in between. And Cursor and GPT are great tools to help with that.
Hmm. So yeah, I often talk about how when you already have domain expertise and you're not afraid of actually adapting to this AI world that we live in now, you can actually really outshine everybody else that's just getting into it. Meaning, in that case, someone like me saying, "Hey, develop a game for me or like a SaaS platform, and then versus somebody like you who already has domain expertise in development, and then you actually use those tools. That's like an exponential difference, right? Like the order of
Absolutely.
magnitude.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's like comparing building a house with a hammer and building a house with all the tools under the sun. That's what I'd compare it to.
that makes sense. That makes sense. So let's get into those tools that we mentioned in the beginning here, which was Cursor and then ChatGPT's new capability of integrating into development tools. I would love to get your take briefly on what you found so far. Which one's your favorite? Do you have a favorite? Maybe there are different applications that you would recommend them. What is your early take?
So, can I share my screen?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
Awesome. So I've got prepared VS Code environment and the GPT 4.0 on my screen, as you can see. So I've created a little calculator, but it's all in the terminal. Now, this was all created within GPT-4o, but I want to get an actual graphical user interface for it. So usually you can use tkinter. I'll tell it, create me a user interface so I can actually see a calculator from my output.
Okay, can we give it a try? Oh, so that means essentially you don't have to copy paste it anymore, right? It just directly infuses it.
With GPT, you still
Yeah.
have to copy and paste it,
Oh,
but it's going
okay.
to take all the context.
Oh, I see. So it analyzes the code. You don't have to copy back and forth that part,
Yeah.
I guess. Would that work with a project that already has been started? Because I think you started this one in that conversation, right?
I started it in the conversation. If it's already started and you create a new chat, it'll know
Mm.
because you
Okay,
can tell it what's the name of the actual of the files and stuff like that.
got it.
So essentially what this is now it can read your context from the
Hmm.
files. But when it comes to actually implementing it line by line, it's not going to do that just yet. And I think
Okay,
to be able to do that, the entire GPT-4o would have to be a IDE, which it isn't yet. For now, it's just a chat application. But if they were to actually mimic what Cursor is doing, I think that the best way to go about it would to be to create an IDE version of ChatGPT,
sorry, what
which,
does IDE stand for? Development
sorry,
environment
it's
something?
an integrated development environment. That's
Okay.
VS Code or anything that you use the code. So Xcode,
Oh,
VS
okay, got
Code,
it. So it's standalone.
NetBeans, yeah,
Gotcha.
basically this. All right, so it's finished generating it with the context that we had in here,
Hmm.
and
Oh, so
I'll
you
run
just
it.
replace everything. Okay, got it.
Yeah, and it created a basic calculator.
Okay. How's the
Let's say I
speed
want to add it.
compared between
The speed,
ChatGPT and the other one, Cursor?
I think it's when it comes to context retrieval, maybe GPT has got the upper hand on it because it can read your actual files, but so can Cursor. So it's probably very minimal
Hmm,
the speed that it takes to actually retrieve the context, but to generate the files and then to actually implement it, if you have a large code base, you're better off using Cursor, in my opinion.
got it.
Like over here, I have to copy that all into my file, and
Right,
if someone doesn't know what they're doing, they might not be able to understand what it generated. So
right.
that will
And
create
so,
errors. And
did you prepare something like this in Cursor as well, so we could see how that would differ, or do you have
so
something
in
prepared in
Cursor,
Cursor?
I actually don't have to prepare anything. I can literally tell it,
Okay.
create me a calculator. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But again, human error is a big error in code, but
Yeah.
now much less so because we have these very good integrated development environments that can just detect if there's a missing bracket or anything like that. So,
Hmm.
okay, and that's the entire calculator generated. And let's run it. Interesting. It's not giving me anything to run.
Hmm. Well,
Again, you
maybe
have to
you
be
can ask
very
it now to create a
precise.
user interface. Yeah, because this one didn't give you anything to run either, right?
It did. It gave me a terminal
Oh, it did. Okay.
calculator.
Gotcha. Let's see
But
what.
that's probably my error with the prompts. But it's
Yeah,
going
I
to
want to see how
quickly.
it actually integrates. When is it replacing? I forgot. Is it replacing the code itself, or you have to?
It replaces certain lines and it adds new ones.
Oh,
If it's
okay, got it.
replaced
So
one, you'll see green, and if it
got it.
deleted some, you'll see red.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's
And
what
you
I
can
wanted
choose
to
to
know.
accept it or reject it. If you reject
Hmm.
it, then you
Just
can
gonna
be
try
like,
again.
okay, this was a terrible output, generate something better.
Yeah.
But let's test this out. I mean, 100 lines in just a few seconds, that's quite decent.
Yeah, if something comes out at the other end, seems to have some problem.
I think that's because I didn't quit my previous environment. That's why. There we
Oh,
go.
okay.
Oops.
I've been playing around with Comfy UI, which is basically like a software, I guess, or an environment where you can generate your own images. Oh, there you go. This is what it came up with.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. No, it was my fault before
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because
Okay, so the main difference that I see is just a little bit user friendly, right? Because it's more integrated. Um, I like that you can, you don't have to brute force copy paste. Like that doesn't make sense because maybe you don't have to
brute force
replace
copy
all of it.
pasting is quite redundant in my opinion with coding because you'll copy it, maybe you'll miss a line, and then
Right,
something's
right.
gonna go wrong in your code, and you're not gonna know. Especially if you don't have much experience, it's really gonna mess things up.
Yeah. So I guess in the current state, you would still favor this one, right? Cursor.
In my opinion, Cursor is way ahead of GPT. But
Hmm.
it's good that GPT added that addition because
Right,
currently it's pretty much Cursor only that has such good functionality. I'm not looking back on using VS Code with Copilot because I do use Copilot here, and Copilot's essentially allowing me to edit inline stuff. So if I want to generate, let's say, see, it predicts what I want to do. If I
right.
want to be like generate a for loop, it's gonna give me a for loop.
Oh, okay. What is
I
that?
just have to
A for loop?
just a basic for loop.
Oh, okay, okay. Gotcha, gotcha. Well, see, I don't even know what that is. A loop of four numbers?
Yeah. So it works better if you actually do it with purpose and meaning, but
Gotcha,
just
gotcha. All right.
for me, it's cursor all the way.
Got
It's got code base in it. You can even do it without the entire code base. So when you've got a code base with multiple files, you're gonna have to do something like at code base, and then it has the entire context of all the files here that would be present. You
got
can't really uh well it will read certain files if you don't do it, but if you really want to make sure that the entire code base is in the context of your prompt, you need to do that. But if
right.
you also want to make specific files readable, you say add files or folders and just click.
Okay. Well, so what I'm seeing then let's what do you think about the following? Right now, ChatGPT seems like it's not really competitive, but let's say they combine it with something like computer control, I think from Anthropic, basically where the
Hmm.
ChatGPT app can just navigate through your desktop and then it could intelligently read what's in the development environment and maybe different ones. I can see
That would be
how
a game changer.
that approach might down the line kind of blow out everything else out of the water. But I mean, like I said, Anthropic's already teased a little bit with that. I don't know where they're at in terms of development. Personally,
Hmm.
I've been playing around a little bit with some really basic Python stuff, where, like I mentioned before, I've been generating some images with Flux on my machine here, and I'm basically just copying the error messages into ChatGPT or sometimes also Claude. Sometimes I even take a screenshot of the whole node setup and I'm asking like, why is this not working? You are the expert, tell me, right? And surprisingly, it actually works like 80% of the time. So I think it's awesome. It's very exciting times for sure. Yeah. So Okay, so for now, the verdict is still Cursor, right? For
I
development.
think absolutely.
Okay.
Cursor, Cursor is a go-to. Even if you're learning how to program,
Yeah.
you're better off with Cursor because it can explain it better and it will actually show you what it's deleted,
Yeah.
that's new.
All right. Well, thank you, Michael. I think that was really insightful for a lot of folks, and I'm curious to see how this develops. And we'll get together on another talk on another topic soon again. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
See
Take
ya.
care.